My name is Alex, and I am 17 years old. I live in the beautiful but very cold city of Montreal in Canada. To understand my story, you have to understand my world. I attend a private international school for boys. Even though I am a girl, I was allowed to attend because my father is a very important diplomat, and the school has a small program for the children of staff and specific families. Most of the students are boys who come from very wealthy families or families that move around the world for work. The school is very prestigious, and it is tucked away in a part of the city where the houses look like castles and the trees are always perfectly trimmed. Because it is a French international school, many of the teachers are brought over directly from Europe, especially from France. They bring their accents and their very strict ways of teaching with them. The school looks like a historical monument with tall stone walls and heavy wooden doors that creak when you open them. Inside, the air always smells like old books and floor wax. I have always felt like a bit of an outsider there because I see things differently than the boys do. I am observant, and I notice when things are not right. I love my little brother Leo more than anything in the world. He is 13 years old, and he is much more sensitive than the other boys at the school. He likes to draw and read, and he does not really fit in with the loud and aggressive atmosphere of a boys' school. I always felt like I had to protect him. My life was mostly fine until a man we will call Mr. H arrived. Mr. H was a teacher brought in from France to teach French language and literature to the younger boys. He was a tall man with a thin face and eyes that always looked like he was smelling something bad. From the very first day, he was a nightmare. He did not just teach, he ruled his classroom with a strange kind of cruelty. He was especially mean to the students who were not from Europe. He would make fun of their accents and tell them they were not smart enough to be at such a fine school. He was a classic bully, but he had the power of being a teacher. When I had him a few years ago, I tried to tell the headmaster about how he spoke to us. I told the administration that he was using words that were very hurtful and racist. But the headmaster just shook his head and told me that Mr. H had a very high success rate with exams and that I was probably just not used to the European style of discipline. It felt like shouting into a void. No matter what we said, the adults believed the teacher over the students. This made Mr. H feel like he was invincible. He knew he could get away with anything, and that made his behavior even worse. The situation became unbearable during my final year at the school. I was 17 and busy with my own university applications, so I was not in his classes anymore. However, my little brother Leo was. One afternoon, Leo came home and he was shaking. He told me that Mr. H had become angry because Leo was not sitting perfectly straight in his chair. Without any warning, Mr. H had walked over and shoved the chair so hard that Leo flew out of it. Leo hit the floor and his nose started bleeding because he landed face first on the hard tile. Some of the other boys in the class had caught the incident on their phones because they were trying to document how crazy this man was. I saw the video and my blood turned into ice. You could hear the sound of the chair hitting the floor and the sound of Mr. H laughing while my brother cried. My parents went to the school the next morning. They were furious. They showed the video to the administration. But do you know what the headmaster said? He said that the video was taken illegally because phones are not allowed in class. He said that Mr. H claimed he was just trying to help Leo sit up straight and that it was an accident. He actually blamed Leo for being clumsy. Mr. H did not even get a warning. In fact, he went back to class and mocked Leo in front of the other students for having parents who complained. I knew then that the system was broken. If the adults would not protect the children, then we would have to protect ourselves. I started talking to my friends about what was happening. Many of the students at our school are boarders, which means they live in the dorms on campus. These dorms are connected to the main school building by a long hallway. The students who live there have a lot of freedom after classes are over. They can go get food or go to the movies as long as they are back by a certain time. I have a friend named A who is a boarder. He has a twin brother named B. They are both my age, and they are very popular and well respected. On a Thursday afternoon, I was sitting with A in the student lounge. I was crying because I was so angry about what happened to Leo. A looked at me and told me that the same week Mr. H had thrown a heavy tablet at his own little brother. His brother had a huge bruise on his shoulder. We realized that Mr. H was not just a mean teacher anymore, he was becoming dangerous. We decided right then that we were going to make him leave. We were not going to ask the headmaster for help again because we knew he would do nothing. We were going to make Mr. H want to quit. We were going to make his life so miserable that he would run back to France and never come back. That night, I stayed over at the dorms. My parents let me because they knew I was upset, and they trusted A and B. We sat in their room with another friend named C, and we started a group chat. We invited every student in the senior class that we trusted. We asked for ideas on how to break Mr. H down. By midnight, we had a plan that would last for an entire month. We called it the eviction plan. The first part of the plan was led by C. He was a very quiet boy who was amazing at chemistry. He knew exactly what to do. On Thursday night, C used the secret door that connects the dorms to the school building. He knew that the teacher lounge was never locked. He went inside and found the refrigerator where the teachers kept their lunches. He looked for anything labeled with Mr. H's name. He found a glass container filled with chicken and rice. C had bought a very strong bottle of liquid laxative from the pharmacy. He opened the container and poured almost the entire bottle into the sauce. He stirred it carefully so it would not be noticed. He also found a bottle of orange juice that belonged to the teacher and added the rest of the laxative to that. He was very careful not to leave any fingerprints. The next step happened on Sunday because our school has some classes and activities on the weekends for the boarders. We all waited for the signal. B was watching the teacher lounge from a distance. When he saw Mr. H go inside to eat his lunch, he sent a text to the group chat. It just said the eagle is eating. As soon as we got that text, we all went into action. C had suggested that we make sure there was nowhere for Mr. H to go when the medicine started working. I went to the girls' bathroom near the French department, and my friends went to the boys' bathrooms. We had gathered rolls of toilet paper and old newspapers, and even some cheap hand towels from the gym. We shoved them deep into the toilets in every bathroom on that wing of the building. We used plungers to push the paper down so that the toilets were completely blocked. We did this to 6 different bathrooms. By the time we were finished, there were only 2 working toilets in the entire school, and they were on the complete opposite side of the campus in the administration wing. We went back to our classes and waited. About 40 minutes later, the medicine started to work. I was standing in the hallway pretending to look for something in my locker. I saw Mr. H come out of his classroom. His face was a strange shade of green, and he was sweating. He walked quickly to the nearest bathroom. A few seconds later, he came out looking panicked because the toilet was overflowing. He ran to the next bathroom, but it was the same story. He started to walk with a very strange waddle because he was trying to keep his muscles tight. He was heading for the stairs to go to the administration wing, but it was too late. B was hiding around the corner with his phone out. He caught the exact moment on video. There was a very loud sound like a wet balloon popping, and then Mr. H just froze. He had completely ruined his expensive gray trousers. You could see the wetness spreading, and the smell started to fill the hallway. He didn't even look back. He just walked toward the exit in total silence with his head down. He went home for the rest of the day. We all thought that might be enough to break his spirit, but on Monday morning he was back. He acted like nothing had happened. He told his students that he had a touch of food poisoning and that the bathrooms were a disgrace to the school. He didn't suspect us at all. He thought it was just a coincidence. This made me even angrier. He was so arrogant that he thought he was above everything. I decided it was time for phase 2. I knew that Mr. H usually left his car keys on his desk during the lunch hour because he didn't like having heavy things in his pockets while he ate. I waited until I saw him walk toward the cafeteria. I slipped into his classroom. It was empty and quiet. There they were on the desk, a set of keys for a silver sedan. I took them and ran to my locker. I texted A to tell him I had the keys. I had spent his own money to buy several large packages of raw fish from the market. It was a very hot day in Montreal, which was rare for that time of year. The temperature was climbing toward 40 degrees Celsius. I took the keys and went out to the parking lot. He unlocked Mr. H's car and hid the raw fish in different places. He put some under the seats and some inside the air conditioning vents. He even managed to slide some into the gap behind the glove box. Then he locked the car and gave the keys back to me. I put them back on the teacher's desk before he returned from lunch. For the next 3 hours, the car sat in the direct sunlight. The interior of the car became like an oven. The fish began to cook and rot at the same time. My last class of the day was on the 2nd floor, and it had a perfect view of the parking lot. I invited Leo to sit with me after his classes were done. He had been having a very hard time because Mr. H had been especially mean that morning. Leo told me that Mr. H had actually punched him and another student in the face during a lecture because they were whispering. Leo had a small bruise on his cheek. My heart broke for him. I told him to just watch the window and wait. When the final bell rang, we saw Mr. H walk out to his car. He looked tired and grumpy. He pressed the button to unlock the car and pulled the door open. Even from the second-floor window, we could see what happened next. The smell must have hit him like a physical wall. He immediately started gagingly and doubled over. He didn't even try to get in. He just turned around and ran away, leaving the car door wide open. He was waving his arms in the air and coughing. Leo actually laughed for the first time in a week. It was a great moment, but I was still deeply upset that he had hit my brother again. The fish was funny, but it didn't stop the violence. I realized we needed something more serious. That is when I called my friend DD. Was a few years older than us, and he had a reputation for being a very tough kid. He had been in trouble with the law before, and he didn't care about the school rules. I told D everything. I told him about the chair and the bleeding nose and the punch in the face. D lived only 2 streets away from where Mr. H rented a small house. D told me not to worry and that he would handle it. He wouldn't tell me his plan, which made me nervous. I didn't sleep at all that night. I kept imagining D doing something that would get him sent to jail. I was worried that my anger had started something I couldn't stop. On Tuesday morning, Mr. H did not show up for school. There was a substitute teacher for his classes. I found D during the break and asked him what he had done. D just laughed and told me he wasn't a murderer. He said he had simply noticed that Mr. H's car was parked on the street. D had taken a box of heavy-duty construction tacks and placed them behind every single tire. When Mr. H tried to drive to school in his smelly car, he ended up with 4 flat tires before he even left his driveway. We didn't see him for the rest of the day. We felt like we were winning, but the victory was short-lived. On Wednesday, Mr. H arrived at school in a rental car. He was in a state of absolute rage. He looked like a man who had lost his mind. He didn't even try to teach. He spent the entire morning screaming at his students. He told them he knew they were behind the car troubles and the bathroom incident. He began to pick on a boy in the back of the room who was very quiet. He accused the boy of being the ringleader. In a fit of madness, Mr. H grabbed the desk, which was one of those heavy metal and plastic combos where the chair is attached to the table. He actually ripped the desk part off the frame with his bare hands. He used the plastic tabletop to hit the student over the head. The student fell to the floor and had to be taken to the hospital. It was a clear case of assault. We all thought this was finally it. There was no way the school could keep him now. But the administration was terrified of a scandal. They told the parents of the injured boy that it was an unfortunate accident and offered to pay for the hospital bills if they didn't call the police. They put Mr. H on a 1-day suspension and told him to calm down. It was unbelievable. The school cared more about its reputation than the safety of the children. A and B were beyond angry. They decided to take physical action. When school ended on Wednesday, they waited for Mr. H by his rental car. They didn't hit him, but they grabbed him by his arms and forced him to walk back into the school. They took him to the gym, where there was a small storage closet for sports equipment. They shoved him inside and locked the door. They stayed there for over an hour, holding the door shut while he screamed and kicked. When they finally let him out, he ran straight to the headmaster. But here was the brilliant part of their plan. A and B were known as the Golden Children. They had the highest grades, and they were the captains of the debate team. When the headmaster asked them about it, they just looked confused. They said they had been in the library the whole time, and 3 other students who were in on the plan gave them an alibi. The headmaster actually told Mr. H that he was starting to sound paranoid and that he should go home and rest. This was the moment I realized that Mr. H was finally starting to lose his grip on reality. He was being bullied by the very people he thought he could control. By Thursday morning, the entire school knew what had happened. Every student from the youngest to the oldest was talking about the desk incident and the closet incident. The atmosphere was electric. We knew we had to deliver the final blow. We needed something that the administration could not ignore, something that would make it impossible for them to protect him anymore. And B invited me and D to their dorm room that night. D had managed to get 2 bottles of very expensive and very strong vodka. In our school and in our community, having alcohol on campus is one of the biggest crimes you can commit. It is an immediate reason for expulsion or being fired. We sat in the dark and whispered about the best way to do it. We decided that we would plant the bottles in Mr. H's desk, but we needed someone to find them who wasn't us. We decided to use the very thing that Mr. H hated most, which was the truth coming from a child. On Sunday morning, while the school was quiet for the weekend activities, B's little brother snuck into Mr. H's classroom. He placed the 2 bottles of vodka deep in the bottom drawer of the teacher's desk under a pile of old tests. Then he went straight to the headmaster's office. He was crying and acting like he was very scared. He told the headmaster that he had seen Mr. H drinking from a silver bottle during class and that he was afraid because the teacher was acting very strange. He said he saw the teacher hide the bottles in his desk. At first, the headmaster didn't want to believe him. He told the boy to go back to his room. But then I sent Leo in. Leo went to the office and said the same thing. He told the headmaster that he was scared to go to French class because Mr. H smelled like the medicine my father drinks at night. With 2 different students saying the same thing, the headmaster had no choice. He had to investigate. He called Mr. H into the classroom along with 2 other administrators. They told the students to wait in the hallway. We all gathered around the door listening. We heard the sound of a drawer opening. We heard the clinking of glass. There was a long silence. Then the headmaster's voice was very cold. He asked Mr. H to explain why there was high-proof alcohol in his desk. Mr. H started screaming. He was shouting that it was a setup and that the students were devils. He was swearing in French and waving his arms around, but the evidence was right there. In a school like ours, there's zero tolerance for alcohol, especially when a teacher is accused of drinking in front of children. The administration couldn't hide this. If the parents found out that the school knew about a drinking teacher and did nothing, they would all pull their children out, and the school would go bankrupt. We watched from the windows as Mr. H was escorted off the property by security. He didn't have his car because it was still at the mechanic getting the tires fixed and the smell removed. He had to carry his things in a cardboard box and walk down the long driveway while all the students watched from the balconies. Nobody said a word. It was a silent victory. That was the last time we ever saw him. A few days later, the headmaster came to Leo's class. He told the boys that Mr. H had decided to return to France for personal reasons and that a new teacher would be arriving shortly. He didn't mention the alcohol or the violence. He tried to act like everything was normal. But we knew the truth. We saw the for sale sign go up in front of the house Mr. H had been renting. He disappeared from Montreal completely. It was as if he had never existed. The school became a much happier place. Leo started to enjoy his classes again, and he didn't have to worry about being thrown out of his chair or punched. I felt a great sense of relief, but I also learned something very important. I learned that when people in power refuse to do the right thing, the people below them will eventually find a way to balance the scales. We had ruined his career and his reputation, but he had tried to ruin the lives of children. It felt like a fair trade. I am now preparing to graduate and head to university. I look back at that time, and I don't feel guilty. I think about the look on Leo's face when he saw that car door open, and I know we did the right thing. But there is one final part of the story that I should tell you. A few months after Mr. H left, I was walking through the airport to catch a flight for a holiday. I saw a man sitting in the terminal. He looked older and his hair was messy. He was wearing an old coat that didn't fit him well. It was Mr. H. He was sitting alone with a single suitcase. He looked broken. He saw me, and for a second our eyes met. I didn't look away. I didn't smile, and I didn't frown. I just looked at him so he would know that I remembered everything. He looked down at the floor and moved to a different seat. He knew that even across an ocean he couldn't hide from what he had done. He was no longer a powerful man in a stone castle. He was just a lonely bully with nowhere to go. My brother Leo is doing great now. He is the top of his class in art, and he isn't afraid of his teachers anymore. Sometimes we talk about that year, and we call it the year of the fish. It is a funny memory for us now, but it is also a reminder that we are stronger than we think. We learned that the world isn't always fair, but you don't have to just sit there and take it. You can fight back if you are smart, and if you have friends who have your back. Montreal is still cold, and the snow still piles up against the stone walls of the school, but the atmosphere inside is different. It is warmer and it is safer. We took a risk, and we could have been expelled if we were caught. But seeing my brother smile again was worth every single bit of trouble. The story of Mr. H is a legend at our school now. The younger kids tell stories about the teacher who lost his mind and started seeing ghosts. They don't know that it was a group of 17-year-olds with some laxatives and some raw fish and a lot of courage. We keep our secret because we don't need the credit. We just needed the peace. And finally, we have it. I am standing on the edge of my adult life, knowing that I can protect the people I love. That is a better education than anything Mr. H could have ever taught me. I look out over the city of Montreal, and I feel like I have finally graduated from the hardest lesson of all, which is how to stand up for yourself when the world tries to push you down. I am Alex, and this was how we saved our school from a monster. It was a long journey and it was dangerous, but I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. The sounds of the school bells don't sound like a warning anymore. They sound like a celebration. We are the masters of our own lives, and we will never let anyone take that away from us again. The memory of the smell of that car still makes me laugh sometimes when I pass a fish market. It is a small price to pay for the freedom we earned. My parents still don't know the full story, and they probably never will. They just think the school finally listened to their complaints. I let them believe that because it makes them feel like they protected us. But Leo and I know the truth. We know who the real heroes were. We were just kids, but we were kids with a plan. And in the end, that was all we needed to change everything for the better. The legacy of Mr. H is gone, and the halls of our school are filled with laughter instead of fear. That is the best revenge anyone could ever ask for. I hope that wherever he is, he remembers the name of the school and the faces of the children he tried to break. Because we are the ones who are still standing, and he is the one who ran away. Our story is over, but the lessons we learned will stay with us forever. We are not just students anymore, we are people who know how to fight for what is right. And that is the most powerful thing in the world. I am ready for whatever comes next because I know that I am not alone. I have my brother and I have my friends, and we have the strength to face any bully that comes our way. The cold Montreal winter doesn't feel so cold when you have a fire like that burning inside you. We are the authors of our own fate, and we have written a very good ending to a very dark chapter. Life is good, and for the first time in a long time I am happy. The silence of the school at night used to feel heavy, but now it feels like peace. We did it. We really did it, and it was perfect.